Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with random reviews from the Overflow room. And this, I have to say, is actually a double feature, because not only is this random reviews from the Overflow room, it is also the greatest recordings ever. And I decided to combine them because what we're going to be talking about is the Sándor Végh Mozart Serenades cycle on Capriccio, which includes all the Mozart Serenades and divertimenti except I think it's either the Posthorn or the Hofter, which he did for Philips, which is now Decca. And then he did all the others on Capriccio. Now, Sándor Végh was, of course, one of the great musicians that ever lived in the 20th century, the principal violinist of the Végh Quartet, a musician of unbelievable warmth and humanity and musical depth, and it's evident in everything he did. And even in light music, even in throwaway music, as some of these pieces kind of were. And he made this 9-disc series on Capriccio, which everyone ought to own. I've made videos about it before. But these are the individual issues. Rather than the box. Now they're all boxed up. It used to be they came this way. And for a long time, they were very hard to find. It was extremely annoying. And so I am going to give them as much love as I can by talking about them as among the greatest recordings ever, certainly in this repertoire. They're the best. And, oh, wow. I mean, just as a memento of such a fabulous musician who was content not to have a flashy career as a conductor. He was a teacher. He was an educator. And he made this ensemble sound like a human organism. I can't describe it any other way. There is so much life. And even in the most throwaway phrase of these pieces, they're really recordings to turn to if you want to hear what the potential of music as an expressive and communicative medium can be. And I'm not kidding. Internalize the sound of these performances, and you really will be able to judge the work of just about anybody subsequently in any repertoire whatsoever and know what's missing. Really, I'm not kidding. So let's just look at these, how they're all packaged. And I don't have them in any order here. Let me see. We have volume 6. Yeah, I know they have volume numbers. So we start with volume 3. Not that it matters. So we've got the Cassation in G major, Kerschel 63, which Mozart wrote when he was like, teething. And it's got 7 movements. And these are big works. Some of these. I mean, they are big works. 7 movements, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, yep. And they're 20, 30 minutes long. I mean, these are sort of the major works of his youth. Much more interesting, by the way, than the early symphonies. And we have the Cassation in B flat major, Kerschel 99. They begin with marches, and they've got a bunch of allegros and minuets and dances, and they're just delightful, wonderful light music. The Adagio and Fugue in C minor, Kerschel 546. These are all with the Camerata Salzburg, Végh's own ensemble. And he is the solo violin in some of these pieces, too. There you go. There's one of them. And we have volume 2. And just so you know, the range of things, it's extraordinary in this hodgepodge of orchestral works, light orchestral works. Eine kleine Nachtmusik, the Salzburg Symphonies, actually, they're called the Divertimenti, Kerschel 136 and 137. They're subtitled Salzburg Symphonies, and the Serenata Notturna, Kerschel 239, which is extremely well known. So that was volume 2. Plonk. They're all equally stunning. Stunning, folks. Salzburg Symphony number 3, which is the Divertimento Kerschel 334 and 138. Okay, and it's just 2 divertimenti. Yeah, that's all that's on here. And the Salzburg Symphony number 3. That's what's on here. So a little sort of confusingly packaged. Here we go. Divertimento number 17 for strings and 2 horns, Kerschel 334. And the Divertimento for strings in F major, Kerschel 138, which is the 3rd Salzburg Symphony, because they're 3 movement thingies. But number 17 is big. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 movements. And the length of these movements, it's 7 minutes, 10 minutes, 4 minutes, 6 minutes, 7 movements, 9 minutes. It's 40 some odd minutes. These things could be long. They're big. They were just, wallpaper music. But boy, they don't sound like wallpaper music the way Végh plays them. Not a bit. Now we get, a musical joke. Yeah, we get the divertimento in D major, Commercial 131. That's for 2 violins, bass, flute, oboe, bassoon, and 4 horns in 6 movements. And then a minuet for a bunch of things, for 2 violins, bass, 2 oboes, and 2 horns. A musical joke. A delightful performance of that, really. I mean, you wouldn't think that you could make comparisons of musical joke performances, but you can. And this is one of the best. Not just one of the best, but one of the funniest, because Végh understands timing and where the jokes are and how far to push them. And we've also got the divertimento in E flat, Commercial 113, which is a little tiny thing in 4 movements for 2 violins, viola, bass, 2 clarinets in Mozart's early days, and 2 horns. And anything with Mozart that has clarinets, you want to hear, because he loves clarinets. All right, here's volume 9. This is Serenade number 4, Commercial 203, which has, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 movements. 8 substantial movements, a march, and a bunch of dances. The Ländliche dances, Commercial 606, late Mozart, and the 6 minuets, Commercial 164, and the contradance, Commercial 610. Commercial 610, it's 1 minute and 48-second piece. And the Fantasia for a cylinder organ, Commercial 608, that's a transcription of that, but that's a 12-minute Fantasia for some bizarre instrument that nobody has ever heard of. And so you really ought to hear it, because it's major Mozart, and major Mozart, Commercial 608. Wow. Yeah. Then what we've got here, marches and dances and serenades. Serenade number 1, the official serenade number 1 was Commercial 100. It's one way to remember it. And it's another big sucker. 1, 2, 8 movements. And it begins with a march. They have a march to preface it, but it's not part of the serenade. 4 contradances, Commercial 101, the march, Commercial 215, and serenade number 5, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 movements. Phew. I mean, did you know that there was this much big orchestral Mozart and some of his best early music? And it's so extensive, and it's just amazing. And then here's the Hofner Serenade. So it's the post horn that's on Decca. That's the one, and it's prefaced, and it has a march before it and a reprise of that march after it, because these, as far as we know, these serenades were prefaced by marches quite often. Eine kleine Nachtmusik had an introductory march. So did the Hofner Symphony, actually, at one point, I think, at least the way Hogwood did it, if I'm not mistaken. And so, what can I say? It's just incredible. Volume 6. Okay, the Antretter Serenade, Commercial 185, in 8 big, juicy movements. 5 contradances, Commercial 609. These late Mozart dance pieces are just delightful. And the Notturno, which is a nocturne, which is the same thing as a serenade or a divertimento or a partita or whatever you want to call it. Cassation, in 3 movements, but quite lovely, in D major. And last but not least, volume 5 contains the divertimento for 2 violins, viola, 2 horns, and bass, with a wonderful theme and variations, second movement that's absolutely delightful. It's a big work, a really big work with a really big finale in multiple tempi. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 movements, but they're big movements. It's 15 plus 20 plus 15 plus 3 plus 3 plus, about 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 40 minutes long, somewhere like that, 38 minutes. And the divertimento in D, Commercial 205, for violin, viola, 2 horns, bassoon, and bass. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 movements. So that's it. I went through all this in such excruciating detail because you really ought to get a sense of just how much interesting Mozart there is in these pieces that don't, for the most part, have titles and aren't that well known and that are supremely well played by Sándor Végh and his whatever they're called, the Camerata Academica des Mozarteum Salzburg here, or the Mozart Camerata, the Salzburg Camerata. It's a camerata. That's all you need to know. Go get it, my friends, and keep on listening. Thanks for joining me. Take care.